Welcome, Denome. Once again, Iran and USA were very close to a deal. The deal was essentially announced, almost an extension to the ceasefire. But then, after the announcements came, after insiders made their deals, the whole thing broke apart. And now it seems like, once again, both sides are further away from each other than ever before during the ceasefire period. So, ceasefire got broken between Lebanon and Israel as well. So let's take a look at everything that has been going on, and I will give you my analysis as we go along. Now, if you like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment down below if you hear me say something interesting and you want to give me a comment on that, and let's get started with the situation. So first off, let's take a look at the Strait of Hormuz. As you can see, in the last 24 hours, only 3 ships have gone through the strait, so it has been completely shut down once again. Which is obviously not what we want to see. We want to see it actually open, and this will uh, cause major disruptions the longer this goes, because it's not only oil, it's jet fuel, it's all of the byproducts of oil. It has to be on time, and it has to be made into fertilizer, it has to be made into medicine, it has to be made into multiple different products, obviously. So this is going to hurt the global GDP over time, and it's not looking good the longer this lasts. So that's the Strait of Hormuz there. Then let's take a look at what happened with the price of oil. So the price of oil had a really interesting move. So let's take a look at the Brent oil contracts. So here you can see when the new deal got announced, the price of oil went from $94 to essentially $84. So a little over 10% dump in prices, which is not obviously what I wanted to see because I'm longing oil personally. But you can be right and you can still lose money. And that's the bottom line here. You can be right that the situation will continue, but because of Donald Trump's formulated announcements, maybe together with Iran, I don't know. All in all, you can be right that the situation and the things will get worse, but then markets do something else in the meanwhile. So that's a good lesson to keep in mind going further. But anyway, we had that move to the downside, and now we're going back upwards. Now we're at $88 once again, and the reason for that is obviously because the deal has now been broken. So let's take a look at what happened with the price itself. It's really interesting here. This is the moment, 8:45 a.m., when the foreign minister of Iran essentially came and said that the Strait of Hormuz is completely open, and that's when the prices of oil futures started to collapse completely. But before that, 20 minutes earlier, there was $800 million of short action on oil, and you can see the volume here was pretty much non-existent until suddenly some entities made massive shorts on oil, and that came out without any news. So most likely it was insiders. I don't know if it was the Trump administration or the Iran administration, but in my previous update I did tell you guys that Donald Trump had some major announcement to make in the next couple of days. So uh, I think at least some people in Trump's uh, uh, circles were in the know that a deal was about to be made. So not surprised at all that insiders were shorting before the announcement. So that's what happened there. Now let's take a look at the announcement themselves, because this is hilarious. There were like 5 different understandings of the situation. So I'll go through these all, because all of the different people from different governments are saying different things. So first off, the foreign minister of Iran said, in line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of the ceasefire, on the coordinated route as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Well, 2 points here which were not obvious, and the headlines made this even worse. He says all commercial vessels are completely open to go through the Strait of Hormuz. So not military vessels, only commercial vessels. So when the headline said that Strait of Hormuz is completely open. There was already this uh, side note that is only commercial vessels. And then the second point, by the route coordinated by the Islamic Republic of Iran. So it was unclear after this announcement if Iran is still collecting tolls or not, because they still have to use the coordinated route. So after this came out, Donald Trump utilized the situation and made his own reality with Truth Social posts. And all of these posts here, there's 11 of these in total within a span of 1 hour. So he came out essentially like a happy dog after after a bone, claiming maximalist demands once again. So he says the Strait of Hormuz is completely open and ready for business and full passage, which is again opposite what the foreign minister said, because he said is ready for business for commercial vessels. Trump is saying for full passage. So again, there's immediate contradiction here. And then he says there will be blockade will remain in full force. So even though the Strait of Hormuz is open, there's still a blockade. So that's crazy. And then they will keep the blockade until there's a 100% complete deal with Iran. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and most of the points are already negotiated for the final settlement of this conflict. Then he said Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. Why does he say Strait of Iran? Was it renamed to the Strait of Iran, or did he not remember the name of the Strait of Hormuz? Anyway, I thought it was hilarious. Then he's thanking the Pakistani prime minister and everybody. Then he's saying that the deal is not tied to Lebanon, so he's now pulling Lebanon out of the final deal, saying Lebanon to be made great again. Then he's saying that USA will give help to Iran to remove all of the sea mines. And then he says USA will get all of the nuclear material out of Iran, and no money will be exchanging hands in the nuclear deal. So a nuclear deal is supposed to come as well. Then he says Hezbollah. What is Hezbollah? Is Hezbollah with double L, not double O. But anyway, that's hilarious one more time. He's thanking Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. Then he is saying that they don't need help from NATO except to load up their ships with oil. Paper tiger, NATO. Iran has agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again. It will never be used as a weapon against the world again. What a great and beautiful, brilliant day for the world, according to Donald Trump. So now he's essentially reiterating the maximalist demands, which is to never close the Strait of Hormuz again. It's completely open. Iran will give up all of the nuclear material, and essentially complete capitulation of Iran, according to Trump. So after we saw all of that coming out, people started to analyze what actually happened, what is actually agreed. People started to notice that there's a lot of contradictions here. And then more and more news came out, and it was more and more evident that this whole thing will actually just break apart after the insiders made money. So this is again hilarious. The Speaker of Iranian Parliament came out and said the President of the United States made 7 claims in 1 hour, all of 7 of which were false. But he doesn't go into detail what was false and what is real. So that is confusing. But anyway, he's essentially calling the President of the United States a liar in all of his claims. So maybe there were 8 claims, but he says 7 out of 7 were lies. So everything Donald Trump said is a lie. But then let's continue. He says they did not win the war with these lies, and they will certainly not get anywhere in negotiations either. With the continuation of the blockade, the Strait of Hormuz will not remain open. Passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be conducted based on the designated route and with Iranian authorization. Whether the strait is open or closed and the regulations regarding it will be determined by the field, not by social media. Media warfare and engineering public opinion are an important part of war, and the Iranian nation is not affected by these tricks. Read the real and accurate news of the negotiations in the recent interview of the foreign ministry spokesman. So again, after this, it was still a little bit unclear. Are they collecting at all? What is Iran actually demanding? What is actually going on? Still unclear. And what is really hilarious about this came out after the US market already closed. So were they in coordination with USA making this statement here or not? Was it just a coincidence, or was the Iranian spokesman working late at night until 2 a.m. to make this statement? What's going on here? Still unclear of the real deal. But what we can already deduce from this is that clearly they don't see eye to eye if every single claim that Trump is making is essentially a lie. So not looking great. So then we take a look at what is actually going on with the Strait of Hormuz. You can see after these announcements by Trump, you can see a lot of these ships started to move to the strait, but the Iranian Navy turned pretty much all of the ships back after the fact. And there were two ships that got even shot at, and there were reports of gunfire even in the Western media. Uh, then after that, we got news coming from the Fars news agency, which is the Iranian news agency. Now they are citing, I guess, one of the spokesmen of a military headquarters, that the control of the Strait of Hormuz returns to previous state, and that's because there's a continuous blockade by the USA against the Iranian shipping. So as long as USA continues to engage in piracy and maritime theft under the so-called blockade, the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed. So another take on the matter of the Strait of Hormuz. But then we have another take here on the Strait of Hormuz. So let's read this as well. So this is now coming from the head of the International Security Commission of the Iranian Parliament, that the time has come to comply with the new maritime regime of the Strait of Hormuz. So now we have a new, completely new regime here. So these new regulations are determined by Iran, not by social media posts. Under this new system, only commercial vessels with authorization from the IRGC Navy are permitted to navigate through the designated routes after paying the required tolls. So now it is confirmed, according to this person, that Iran will continue to collect tolls. If the US attempts to create any disturbance for Iranian ships, this situation can easily be changed. I think that means that they are ready to open war one more time. So all in all, this is what they now say, that the ships coming from the Gulf have to use this bottom lane here, and ships going into the Gulf have to use the top lane to go to that area. And every ship in the middle here is essentially being targeted by Iranian military. And what is interesting about that is that two vessels were actually using the route here, hugging the northern part of Oman and well, this area here. These vessels were able to go through. Both of these are actually clearly civilian vessels, cruise lines. So I'm happy that they were not targeted and not blown up, because the civilians obviously have nothing to do with the war. But that's what happened there. So really interesting that they were able to essentially go through the minefield as well without a problem. But now we have that take that they will continue to collect tolls. And also, Iranian foreign minister got really bad harassment from the Iranian media, because his statement here was very unclear. What is actually real? Are they collecting the toll or not? And also that he allowed Donald Trump to essentially hijack the media completely, and he did not refute the facts immediately after Donald Trump made his own claims on social media. So Arache got really, really, really heated action from the Iranian media and his colleagues and the IRGC. Everybody essentially ganged up on Arachi afterwards. Like, what are you doing here? This is not how to conduct this situation. So then the Iranian, let me see if I have it somewhere here. So here, so the Iranian uh, deputy foreign minister, who is essentially under the foreign minister, he now has, maybe this is a fifth take right now on this deal here. He says that Iran rejects any temporary ceasefire. So any extension of ceasefire is now essentially banned. He says Iran is demanding a complete halt to every active conflict in the region. From Lebanon to Red Sea to Persian Gulf, everything is now a red line. Every front, every flashpoint, all at once or nothing. So now we have a fifth take, which is also a pretty maximalist take, that everything has to be agreed on at once or nothing is agreed on. And during the weekend, we saw the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel also break down. So here is footage of Israeli soldiers blowing up Lebanese villages during the ceasefire. And what is funny about this is that it was the Israeli soldiers themselves who are posting these videos. So Israeli soldiers are ratting themselves of breaking the ceasefire. So Israel obviously doesn't want the ceasefire to hold. I think they were coordinating and allowed to post this online. I'm not sure, but I would pretty much believe that is the case. So after the news came out that Israel blew up the ceasefire, then obviously Israeli defense forces came out and claimed that Hezbollah has been violating the ceasefire. I don't know if they did. Maybe they did. Maybe it was a response to Israel. Maybe Hezbollah was first to break down the ceasefire. It doesn't matter. All in all, the ceasefire has been broken. And it doesn't look like this kind of deal making where you have all these different people making different kinds of claims, very unclear what is real, what is not clear. This is not how you make a permanent deal with anybody, because the Iranian side believes that they have the upper hand. They went to the negotiations with JD Vance, with the US delegation, with the belief that USA was going to concede to Iran, because the basis of that negotiation was the 10-point plan that Iran itself gave out. That was coming from Trump before the negotiations started, which eventually failed as well. So Iran believed that USA would concede to them, but now it's becoming clear that USA is not willing to concede anything. And also it's becoming clear that Iran is not really willing to concede anything either. So all of this is essentially building to another wave of war, clearly. So that's what I believe eventually will happen. Now, I don't want to say that there will not be an extension to this ceasefire. That could very well happen. Also, there could not. It could be a case where there is a breakdown of the ceasefire and not an official extension of the ceasefire, but the hot hostilities don't continue yet. The blockade by USA just continues here for further, because the 10,000 soldiers going from USA to the Middle East, they are still en route, and they will arrive by the end of April or by the start of May. So it could be the case that USA doesn't want to start anything hot yet. They are waiting for more military power. So USA probably doesn't want to open fire yet, and Iran usually doesn't want to open fire first either. So it could be a case where we have a period where the ceasefire has officially ended, but the hostilities just don't continue until eventually something has to give, because obviously this face off here cannot continue forever. Eventually, one side has to shoot the other to enforce the blockade. So eventually it will probably break down. But now that we have these ceasefires breaking down, and there's clearly no eye to eye, uh, 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 nobody on the Iranian side has the same understanding of what should be the final deal, and clearly USA and Iran don't see eye to eye, and probably Israel and USA don't see eye to eye either. Here is Marco Rubio now talking about Nicaragua. So Trump administration continues to hold Murillo Ortega dictatorship accountable for human rights violations against Nicaraguans. So now this is a new country in this world conflict, Nicaragua. I hope you had that country in your bingo card for this year as well, because that looks like they are about to do something there. And also, Donald Trump over the weekend started talking about Cuba once again. So let's hear what he says about that.
70 years in waiting. It's called A New Dawn for Cuba. We're going to help them out with Cuba. We have a lot of great Cuban Americans. Not too many people in this audience, I don't think, but...
He says they have a lot of great Cuban Americans. Well, obviously, Marco Rubio's family is from Cuba. And he hates the Cuban government. They want to take it down. So Donald Trump is now at least hanging the carrot in front of Marco Rubio that they will come to take down Cuba. I believe they will. It could be just a diversion to keep his coalition together. But all in all, they're talking about Cuba as well. So these conflicts that we're now seeing on the planet, I don't really see this going down in the near term. It seems like it doesn't matter if it's the Republicans in power, it doesn't matter if it's the Democrats in power, we will just have conflict all throughout the world where the US government is trying to keep this empire together. And one proof of that is that there was another failed vote to pass the resolution to end Trump's war with Iran, and this vote failed by one vote. And this is complete theater, obviously. Just one Democrat, Jared Golden, voted to let Trump keep waging the war. Clearly orchestrated to fail on that vote. And Jared Golden, he's receiving $3.4 million from the Israeli lobby. So obviously he voted against it. But if it wasn't Jared, it would have been someone else, because Jared, from what I was looking at it, is not running for re-election. So he's essentially being thrown to the wolves here, just in coordination. But if it wasn't Jared, it would have been someone else. And Senk Uyghur is pointing out this exact point here. He is one of the first political commentators on YouTube. He used to have the biggest political podcast, I could say, on YouTube, I think 15 years ago or so. But he's saying that there's always just enough votes for Israel to win any vote in Congress. I don't think they've ever lost a vote in my lifetime, and it's always just enough votes, no matter how many they need from either side. It's a bullshit game played on the American people to rob us. So that's his take there. I pretty much agree with it, even though I don't like Democrat policies personally. He's a Democrat also. So anyway, the foreign policy of USA is always the same, just more empire, and that's basically it. And here from Kobeissi letter, this is a pretty good summary of what has been happening over the last, let's say, 12 hours. So 12 hours ago, President Trump said he would have some information by the end of the day. Well, Saturday already ended without any deal announcement and complete silence from both Iran and the USA. Meanwhile, the anticipated peace talks between the US and Iran on Sunday were never scheduled, and the Strait of Hormuz is closed again. In 18 hours, US stock market and oil futures will reopen. We expect an eventful Sunday ahead. So shenanigans on Sunday. I don't think they will come out with any deal, because so many people in Iran have a different take of what should be the situation with the Strait of Hormuz. It seems like the IRGC is in power, and it seems like the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Arachi, is not speaking on behalf of the IRGC. Maybe there's different factions here. There's clearly some infighting between Iran as well. But I feel like the Iranian military are not willing to give up the Strait of Hormuz. And I believe Donald Trump is also unwilling to give it up. But they will probably try to get an extension, like I said earlier, uh, and they will not fire on Iran. And because of that, I don't believe Iran will fire on USA either until USA has enough military force to do some kind of a ground operation here. So what I think Iran should do to end this conflict, if I was Iran, is to blow up nuclear weapons in secret facilities inside Iran. And I hate to say this, but that's exactly what Pakistan did in 1998. They blew up 5 nuclear devices in 2 secret locations in response to India. And after 1998, no country has been really in serious messed with Pakistan. And even USA's own policy papers say that if Iran were to ever blow up a nuclear weapon and do nuclear testing, then USA would most likely, the best course of action would be to stop these regime change operations and try to establish positive relations with Iran. So Iran, in my opinion, is incentivized to build nuclear devices and to showcase that it has the capability now, as long as it's in the midway of having highly enriched uranium, but not creating the nuclear weapon, is essentially inviting war onto its soil. And until that time, USA's policy papers say that USA will engage in regime change operations. So the only way essentially to end this conflict is either for USA to militarily do the regime change operation or for Iran to build a nuclear weapon. So to end this conflict, I really, from Iranian side, I only see one way they can do this, and that is to build the nuclear weapon and to finalize it and to showcase to the world that they have that capability. Now, I hate that option, but it seems like the only option that Iran has. But until then, right now, all I see is actually just more military escalation. And right now, USA will double down on the blockade here, and it will be a matter of time before the blockade ends, maybe by the end of the month. But all in all, I believe that they are still incentivized to continue this silly supposed ceasefire and continue the face-off against Iran. Because from USA's side, as this blockade continues, they will come out on top. They control most of the world's oil, and the oil is not reaching China as of now. So that's what, again, this whole thing is about. If you're a new viewer, this whole thing with Russia and Venezuela and Iran, it's all about blockading China at the end of the day. So now it will be really interesting what's going on with all of that. But personally, I believe that the world will go into a worse situation, not into a better situation overall, even if there's temporary cessations of hostilities. And Professor Robert Pape, who is the author of The Escalation Trap, he says that in a blockade against Iran, the first 45 days is essentially price spikes. And then as the blockade continues, after 60 days, the supply shortages will start to show up. Not only in gasoline, in jet fuel, it will come into helium, it will come into semiconductors, it will come in essential goods on the planet. Medicine, it can come into fertilizer markets on many different situations. And that's when we start to see a systemic collapse and systemic disruption start after 90 days, maybe by late May. So it's very hard for me to believe that the US markets will just continue rallying to the upside. The good news is that the Brent crude, which is the physical oil, also had a dump on Friday, but because it doesn't seem like this war is about to end, it looks like the blockade will continue. I think the physical price of oil will eventually have to go back up. So I'm keeping my longs open on oil. As we see more dips, as we see more manipulation, I will just be buying the dips here. Some people are saying that it will go down to $50. I just don't see it as of now. Maybe I will lose money on this trade, but that's what I'm currently seeing. Many people are saying that I'm an idiot and that Bitcoin will go to newer highs and that US stock market will continue to rise higher as well. But I'm just not willing to take that side of the deal. Right now, Bitcoin has resisted this trend line here. But even if it goes above here to like 80K, it will essentially hit this line here. So I just see so much resistance here. I want to see a good pullback here, back to like 63, 60K range, maybe even below that to 55 if we see a full blown war one more time. That would be a very beautiful buying area for me. But for now, I'm just trying to avoid overcommitting to really any side of the trade as this uncertainty builds up. But that's the update I had for you guys today. Let me know in the comments if you liked what I had to say. Let me know, do you believe there will be an official extension of the ceasefire or not? And I will see you guys on the next video. Thank you and bye bye.